First, I'd like to apologize for getting the facts wrong about the 12 dead in Egypt. It was triggered by misinformation with a group of Muslims. There were Muslims there who were acting and behaving improperly, and there were Christians there who were acting and behaving improperly, and there were Muslims there that were acting bravely, and Christians there who were acting bravely. If I'm a Muslim, I don't want to read a news story and hope in the end that I'm good. I don't need to read the news as a Muslim or a Christian or an atheist to determine how many people died and which ethnicity or religious background each group came from. The fact is that these reports don't determine or verify whether or not we are good. So if it was all Muslims killed, does that make Muslims better and Christians worse? If it was all Christians killed, does that make Christians better or Christians worse? It shouldn't make any difference. I shouldn't have to read a story that involves my faith and have the outcome of the story somehow impact how good of a person I am. Whether it's 12 Christians dead, 6 Christians dead, 6 Muslims dead, 12 Muslims dead, as a Muslim, it doesn't change me. It doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change my morality and my faith. And all these stories, whether they be conspiracy theories about 9/11, whether they be stories about Israel and Palestine, wherever you go, you read the stories and we look at them and we say, oh yeah, Muslims. Oh yeah, Americans. Oh yeah, Christians. But it never ever, if you ever read a story about an American and Americans doing bad things, none of those stories ever had anything to do with me. Ever. They never, ever changed who I was. They never confirmed something good or bad about me. Whenever I've read a story that says something bad about Muslims killing or dying, I know that you as a Muslim, no matter what the outcome of this story is, has nothing to do with you. You're the same loving, kind heart you always were, before and after the story. That's why I hate reading news stories. On top of that, I get them wrong, because I read a source that says that Coptic Christians, 12 of them were killed, when in fact, I don't think that's what happened. There's a lot more to the story. But it shouldn't matter, these small details. These details of the story shouldn't matter because they don't change Muslims and they don't change Christians. I got a riddle for you. What does the war on terror and Wahhabis have in common? Well, let me tell you. Wahhabi and terrorism share something very interesting. Abdul al-Wahhab was a reformer in the Muslim faith. Tell me if I'm wrong. Abdul al-Wahhab didn't like that people were making shrines out of the dead. And people were kind of worshiping these grave sites. And he wanted to go back to pure Islam. So the people who were following him, who call themselves Salafi, they don't want to be called Wahhabis because it's ironic. It's an ironic insult to call them a Wahhabi because Wahhab is an attribute of God, one of the 99 attributes. So it's as if you're saying these Wahhabis either consider themselves equal with God by calling them a Wahhabi, which would actually be shirk, which is actually the great sin that Abdul al-Wahhab fought against. To call somebody a Wahhabi is to give them the greatest ironic insult. To make it sound as if somehow their worship has elevated them in their minds to a level where they believe that they are equal with God, which is the absolute opposite of what someone who's called a Wahhabi, a Salafi, what somebody who's called a Wahhabi is. It's the exact opposite. It's like the war on terror. There is no war on terror. You can't have a war on terror because terrorism is not an ideology. It's just a method of fighting. And to call somebody a terrorist who considers himself a freedom fighter, for them is the greatest insult, and it's incredibly ironic. Not as ironic as calling someone who is a Salafi, calling him a Wahhabi. What an ironic insult. It's actually brilliant in how ironically, painfully cruel it is. But I think most of the people that throw around that term Wahhabi don't know what an insult it is. Salafi should be the last person in the world to ever try to pair anything connect anything to God, to the purity of God. So let me know what you think if I'm wrong again. A friend of mine once said, I reserve the right to be wrong. So if I'm wrong, tell me.